How's it going, everyone? This is Samir from PSR, and welcome back to another video. This one's a special one because it is the first walk-around video I've done for this car in like 3.5 years, so there's plenty to cover, and it's long overdue. But it's also special because as of the day you're seeing this video, I have now owned my car for 10 years. This isn't the only car I've ever owned, but it was my first car, and to be able to say I've now owned it for 10 years is surreal. It's a big milestone. I don't know many people to keep a car for 10 years, let alone their first car, so I figured this is perfect timing. Now, I apologize in advance if there's many cuts in this video. It's just that I'm recovering from a cold, so I might have to take a break to have a coughing spell or to blow my nose or something like that. But we're just going to dive in to the car here in a second. I'm going to break it up very simply. We're going to go over the interior first because that's where the least amount of work has been done. Then we're going to talk about engine and exhaust and performance and whatnot. Then we're going to go to the exterior, wheels, suspension, etc. So let's just dive on in. All right, guys, so here's the car. Yeah, I can't believe that when I was a freshman in high school, I was driving this car, and here I am in my final year of law school, still driving this car. It's absolutely surreal. 10 years. It did not go by in a flash. It did not. It feels like I've had this car for a lifetime, but that's not really a negative thing here. So just to start off with the basics, like I said earlier, it's a 1996 Honda Civic. You've heard me say that a million times. It's the LX sedan model. The LX was basically the mid-range model. It was more luxurious than the DX, but not as nice as the EX. And it has the same motor as the DX did. It has the D16Y7 motor, which is the non-VTEC 1.6 liter. It makes approximately, I think, 15 to 20 less horsepower than the EX did. It's rated at something like 106 horsepower from the factory. Obviously, being 25 years old now, it is not making that amount, or at least it wouldn't if it was stock. I have done a few things to it, but it's still quite slow. It's also an automatic, and I feel like right now would be a good time to sort of defend that fact a little bit. Typically, you know, in my everyday life, I don't feel the need to defend the fact that this car is an automatic, but people on the internet, particularly car enthusiasts, are very aggressive and finicky, I guess, and they have to nitpick at every little thing about your car. It's like, oh, I love everything about it, except it's an automatic. So I'm gonna explain. First of all, when I got this car, I didn't even have a choice in what the car was gonna be. My parents surprised me in a way. I didn't know what the car was until it was back from paint. They had it painted for me. They put on some aftermarket wheels. They tinted the windows, and it had 86,000 miles. Could you imagine? I mean, people would kill for an 86,000 mile, 25-year-old car nowadays. So I mean, I guess it was 15 years old at the time, but still, the fact remains. Plus, at the time, I was an automotive enthusiast. I wouldn't say I wasn't, but not in the same way I am today. Today, I'm all about modification. I'm about performance. I'm about style, all of that. At the time, when I was 15 years old, you know what cars I was fantasizing about? Lamborghinis, Skylines, Ferraris, etc. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to make my commuter car, my 40-mile-a-gallon commuter car, into a sports car. That was not my thought at all. So it didn't bother me at all what it was. I'm not going to say I wasn't excited to have this car, because I was, but more so it was just for the freedom of having a car, not necessarily what it was. So that's the first major point. The second major point is that the reasons why I own this car are not those, you know, associated with the need for a manual transmission. You know, I don't race this car at all. I don't need it. I don't need to shave off 3 or 4 tenths of a second at the drag strip. I don't need to lay down killer times at autocross or other racing events. All I need for it to do is look nice and drive reliably. And whether it was an automatic or a manual, that wouldn't matter as long as I took care of it, obviously. Would I prefer a manual? Yes, that's one thing. I would say that I would prefer it, but not for performance reasons per se. It would be more of a, you know, improving the genuine driving experience, you know, having more control over the car. That's really the only reason I would want it. And I do intend on getting one at some point. But in the meantime, it really doesn't make sense to do it. Money-wise and time-wise. I'm still in law school. Once I'm done, then we can start looking at bigger and better things to do with the car. But I just wanted to, you know, put this out there as sort of a preemptive defense tactic for the inevitable comments I'm going to get, you know, hating on the car, which it doesn't bother me too much. I just feel like I should try to justify myself. Maybe it'll limit the number of those comments I'll get. Who knows? Alright, so the most obvious interior upgrade has got to be my reverse glow gauges, which are just simply aftermarket overlays that you put, you literally put them over your normal gauge cluster, and they don't change anything. They read all the same things, but they glow. And I've got actually this little switch and dial set up down here, hooked up directly to it so that, obviously we should turn on the lights. So you turn on the lights, parking lights, whatever, they come on just like normal gauge cluster, so you can see. Looks pretty cool. This is on the blue setting, as they call it. You can switch to green, which I don't think looks as good, but whatever. It doesn't look too different, honestly, on the camera. But then, of course, you can adjust the brightness. You can't tell too much right now because it's still technically daylight. But yeah, super cool aftermarket setup. I mean, you could say it's a little ricey, but honestly, I've loved it this whole time. I've never decided to go back, so. Next up is my sound system, which really couldn't be more basic. I've got this dual stereo, that's D-U-A-L. I'm not actually sure if that brand even still really exists, but this is a crappy old stereo. I've had it in this car for probably 8 years now, and I got it used even then. So it's probably been around for 10, 11, 12 years, something like that. But it was 20 bucks installed, so it was a no-brainer, and it does exactly what I needed to do. All right, guys, yes, that was literally it for the interior. Now we're moving on to the engine bay and exhaust. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like there's a lot going on here. I mean, to, a typical bystander, a non-car enthusiast, they look at this, they're like, wow, this must be a really fast car. In fact, that happens all the time. If I'm working on my car in the O'Reilly's parking lot, they walk up, they're like, oh my God, how much horsepower do you make? You know how it is, but you guys know what's really up. So let's just kind of start from the intake to the exhaust. So first off here, we got a Password JDM carbon fiber power chamber intake. I don't remember exactly how wide it is at its widest diameter, but it's obviously pretty big. It's the whale penis, as they call it. Password JDM doesn't call it that, but us Instagrammers do. It's a pretty cool looking piece, and really just fills out the engine bay. I mean, otherwise I'd have just a big open space here, not doing anything. Then we've actually got this Mugen Racing strut bar in the way of my intake manifold, so we'll talk about that next. It's very simple. That's the most recent addition to the engine bay. It's a pretty good looking bar, aluminum polished kind of look. It contrasts against the carbon fiber nicely, so I like it. I like having it in there. It looks really cool. Then behind it, we've actually got the D16Y8 intake manifold and throttle body, which I got from EX Honda Civic. That's one of those two differences, or one of the few differences between that motor and this motor. Obviously, this promotes airflow and probably slightly worsens fuel economy, but not by much. It's all about how you drive, really, not about what parts you have. Then the valve cover, it's actually just the stock valve cover, just hydro dipped to look like it's made of carbon fiber. It started to come off a little bit here within the last few months. I don't know why that's happening. It's supposed to be resistant up to like 900, 950 degrees. So don't know exactly what happened, but it's okay. I'll probably wrinkle paint it at some point or something like that. Or I might not even bother because eventually I'd want to change engines anyway. So yeah. Then I got my DC Sports 421 stainless steel headers. They are ceramic coated black, just to sort of fit into the engine bay a little bit more and keep the temperatures down. But keep in mind, guys, even with all of this, I'd be really lucky, I'd say, to even be making 110, 115 wheel horsepower. I'd say that'd be lucky. So yeah. And obviously we can't see the exhaust beyond that point, but I can tell you what's there. We've got a Magnum Flow catalytic converter. It's not a high flow cat. It's still a muffler, but it's not as restrictive. Then we've got basically a 2.5-inch straight pipe going up to a glass pack near the back, and then followed by a street style muffler, which I can show you. It's actually going bad at this point. It's starting to rattle. Probably needs to get going. All right, and that leads us to the final and probably most exciting portion of my build, the exterior plus wheels and suspension and all of that, which is where most of the work has been done. All right, so if you haven't been following along for the last year or so, almost a year ago, I got the car completely repainted. It was one of the best things I've ever done to the car, and it was in need of it for a few years, I'd say, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I had a friend do it. He is a professional painter, but he did it on the side. He really hooked me up, and it just looks incredible. I love it. I mean, it's not perfect. Paint jobs seldom are, but it looks, you know, a million times better. And I love just, you know, washing it and then not seeing clear coat peeling and all that other bad stuff you associate with bad paint jobs. It's just incredible. This respray, I did things a little bit differently than the car originally was. So for those who don't know, LXs come with, you know, a black, I don't know what you call this thing, trunk tray, black door moldings, black door handles, black mirrors, etc., black side skirts. I had all of that paint matched. So it's just nice and uniform. It doesn't look as 90s. That's such a 90s thing to do, you know, to have the black door handles and side skirts and all of that, and mirrors. And then obviously there's new body parts as well. So the first of those new parts is this Civic Type R style grille. It's a really phenomenal grille. I mean, I think it's a must on one of these builds, for me at least. I have a million different ideas for what I could do with one of these cars, but each and every one of them includes this grille. Paint matched the way it comes from the factory, you know, with the outer lip being paint matched, the center remaining black. That's just what you do. These headlights are actually new, but they are also aftermarket. Then we'll come down. We got the Civic Type R style lip. It's already gotten chipped a little bit, but you know, that's what happens here in Idaho. They lay down gravel pretty quickly, and you know, even with, you know, like painter's tape protection, you're not immune. So yeah, but it's again, it's aftermarket, so the fit isn't perfect, but it does its job and it looks really nice, and it is of course paint matched. Next up are the mirrors. These actually are not stock. I got these from a 1998 or 9, I can't remember which one, Acura EL. By the way, if you're wondering what that is, that's all these birds flying south for the winter. Anyway, these basically look exactly the same as Civic Type R EK9 mirrors do. That's why I got them. The difference being, of course, is that although these are heated, I don't have the heating wired up or anything. I don't really need that. Plus, I was lazy. But they're not power folding mirrors. But they are power mirrors otherwise. You can still adjust them, but you just can't fold them. But, of course, you can fold them manually. It's not a big hassle, really. Now, here we are at the back. We've got a 1999 to 2000 rear bumper, which fits totally fine. And I think it looks, you know, leagues better than the 96 to 98. I just like the kind of outward curve there at the bottom more than the, I'd say, conservative one from the pre-facelift model. That's just what I think. Then I've got these clear taillights. They're meant to kind of look like SI style taillights. These are just from eBay. I think I got them for 50, 60 bucks. They look pretty much OEM quality though. I mean, obviously the hardcore enthusiasts will know they're not, but it's really the only way you can get this look without, you know, I guess you could bake your stock lights, but it wasn't worth it for me. Mine were pretty crap at the time anyway. I did have to get yellow bulbs put into the turn signals because I got pulled over and they said I had to, but it was just a couple of bucks. The only reason I didn't at first was because I didn't care. So I was just lazy, honestly. Then the last two things are this Mugen style wing. Again, not genuine, but I think it looks really nice on sedans in particular. It really completes the look. I've seen people put SI... Oh, there's an Outback back there. Oh my god. I've seen people put SI wings on these, but I don't know. It just doesn't look as natural to me. I think this looks a little bit better, but teach their own. Not gonna hate. Then we've got a genuine JDM badge there. So yeah, really nice and simple. You know, I don't usually have too many banners on my car at any given time. I'd say right now I have more than I ever had, which is 4. That top one is obviously personal. Rest in peace, Sonny. We love you. Like-Minded Society is a page. It's more like a community, though, run by one of my good friends. It's just a great page. If you don't follow it, there's one on Facebook. There's one on Instagram. He has a great message. He promotes positivity, peace, passion. It's just a great, civil, respectable community online, which is hard to find these days, so definitely worth a follow. Now back to the front, we've got a PSR banner, of course, gotta have that, and then the biggest one being my Wink / Cut to Fit banner from Top One Motors, which I love, by the way. I see one of these in a car and I'm like, oh my god, race car, you know, it's just one of those things. But it's actually good to discuss these guys next because they are my sponsor. They have been sponsoring me for several years. They are a phenomenal company. They have really hooked me up over the years, and my car has always looked its best with their parts on it. So let's go over those next. So to start off, we got the front Type 2 winglets. The Type 2 kind of gives you the shark fin looking aggressive style, and I just love it. The winglets, the reason why I went with winglets again, because I had them before, this time I have them with the plates though, or plaques, rather than decals, which, you know, just slightly higher quality, look slightly cooler. The reason why I went with that is because the way the Type R lip is shaped, as you can see, it comes up in the center there. So I feel like if I had a splitter going all the way across the bottom, there'd be a weird gap there. Well, I know there'd be a weird gap. It's not that I think there would be. I know there would be, but I don't think it would look very nice. So I went with the winglets again, which are nice, and they're aggressive enough. They're not too over the top. I also contemplated getting canards, but I wanted to keep, you know, the look not too extreme. I didn't want it to be too aggressive, not at this stage at least. Then we got the rear window vents, which I love. Obviously, there are performance purposes for getting these, but I did not really consider those. It's really just a byproduct of them looking super cool. I get asked about these all the time in parking lots, at shows, and meets. People are like, oh my god, what are these for? And then I explain all the reasons. I'm like, oh, there's really 3 or 4 reasons to have them, but I only want them because they look good, so there you go. And finally, we've got the rear diffuser. This is what they call the half diffuser, which, if you guys have seen my previous walk-around videos or been following me for a while, you would know that I had a bigger diffuser before, which went actually all the way out to the edges of the bumper. That diffuser I also really liked, but it actually ended up breaking when, you know, a ton of snow got packed up on top of it, and it kind of just snapped off of one of the mounting points. And I did like how that diffuser looked, but honestly I just was going for a different style this time, and I didn't want it to be as aggressive. That one was super aggressive, definitely much more aggressive than this one, but this one's just simpler, and I think it looks really nice. It's just nice and simple. That's really what I'm going for. Not too simple, but not too aggressive. Alright, we're down to the last couple of things now. We're going to go to wheels and suspension, and tires, of course. Roto grids, they are 16x7 plus 40 offset, which is honestly the perfect size for these cars. I see a lot of 15s run on these cars as well. 15s work, but I just prefer the 16s a little bit more for myself, with the tire specs I go with, at least. Mine are pretty close to stock size, so that's what I do, at least in terms of diameter, not other specs. And the tires are 195/50 R16. It's a pretty conservative size. I mean, and they're all season tires. They're Falcon Zeeks, I believe is how you pronounce it. I wasn't going for anything crazy. Again, not a performance car. I need tires that last, and these are going to do that for me. That's what I really need. Then I've got Password JDM blue aluminum lug nuts, which have faded in the sun a little bit over the years, but they still look pretty good. Probably won't go with these again, just because, you know, if you're someone like me who takes your wheels off and puts them back on pretty frequently, and you don't have like a special tool or whatever it may be, you're definitely going to scratch them up, you're definitely going to mark them up, and it's just really not worth it for me to have nice looking lug nuts, especially for the price, if I can't keep them mint. So I'll probably just go to something more conservative from here. I should also mention up here that something like 7 or 8 years ago I painted these front calipers blue, and they have definitely seen better days. They need a respray badly. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but I've just had other things on my mind, so those have always been on the back burner. Alright, the last thing is the suspension behind these disgusting looking drum brakes. This is really the most you're going to get to see of them. They are Mugen Racing Easy Street coilovers, which are nice mid-range coilovers. You know, they're nice enough. They are, you know, from a reputable brand. They're high quality, they work well. I've had them on the car now for I think 4 or 5 years or so, and they do their job. They do it well. And obviously they're height adjustable, and you can adjust the damping, which is really all I need for a street car. So they're just perfect for me. Obviously you can get much fancier coilovers, but these are well worth the money. The one thing you can't adjust with those though is the camber. So to accommodate, I have front and rear Skunk 2 Racing camber kits, which were, you know, probably a little more expensive than they needed to be, especially since the bushings in them are already going out after, I think, not even 3 years. And they've, you know, been squeaking a little bit for months. So I was just thinking, really? I spent this much money and now I got to replace the bushings already? I don't know. Well, guys, after 10 long years, I can confidently say the car is basically looking just as I've wanted. I mean, obviously my thoughts on how the car should look have changed over the years. I went through having a body kit, went through being totally stock, went to this nice clean look. At least it's clean in my opinion. It's gone through a lot of phases, but I think it's finally where I want it to be. There's not much I want to change from here. I might change, you know, a set, looks wise at least. I might change, you know, a set of wheels. I don't know, I might get a rear lip or something. I don't know, it would have to work with the diffuser, so maybe not. I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe a different genuine front end or something like that. But really, that's it. You know, the looks department is basically stocked full now. So really what I'm looking for in the future, especially once I have a garage, I haven't had a garage in years. So once I have a garage, I'll be able to do, you know, bigger and better things. I'd like to get new exhaust. I'd like to get, you know, brakes, do a rear disc conversion, you know, improve the suspension even more, get control arms, get all that good stuff. And then eventually, you know, once I'm making money, once I'm out of school making money, I'd love to go for a B or H series, maybe even a K series, I don't know. Motor for the car, a manual transmission swap. There's a lot of great things I can do with this car, and it really has limitless potential because of how popular the chassis is and how much aftermarket support there is for it. So the sky's the limit, but I'll definitely be keeping you guys all up to date. Sorry these videos are, you know, coming out so far apart. It's just things are really busy. I'm finishing up law school, like I said. This is my last year, almost halfway through, and then just, you know, one more semester after Christmas. So we're right there. Anyway, we'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.